Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Have you ever held a 1991 USA 1-cent coin in your hand and wondered, could this small copper-colored circle be hiding something extraordinary? Maybe just another penny, you think, worn out, ordinary, almost worthless in appearance. But what if I told you that one of these tiny coins, 1 cent in face value, is secretly worth more than $99 million in today's collector market? That's right. A coin that most people dropped on sidewalks, lost between couch cushions, or tossed into jars could actually be one of the most valuable modern cents ever discovered. Welcome to the hidden universe of the 1991 USA penny, a story of design, mint marks, history, and unimaginable rarity. It begins, like all great coin stories, not in the present but in the fire and metal of the US Mint, where molten copper-plated zinc was poured into sheets, cut into blanks, and stamped with the image of America's most iconic president, Abraham Lincoln. The year was 1991, and the mint was operating in full swing, producing hundreds of millions of these coins across 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each of them carried its own story, a silent fingerprint of where and how it was made. On the front side, or obverse, of the coin stands the enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed originally by Victor David Brenner in 1909. His profile faces right, his thoughtful gaze slightly upward, a symbol of leadership and resilience. Above his head, the words, "In God We Trust," stretch across the rim, a motto that has stood firm through every American penny for more than a century. To Lincoln's left is the word, "Liberty," and to his right, the date, 1991. Just below the date, some coins bear a small letter, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and none at all for Philadelphia. That single letter, that tiny mint mark, would later decide the fate of entire fortunes. Turn the coin over, and the reverse reveals a masterpiece of architectural design, the Lincoln Memorial. From 1959 until 2008, this monument stood proudly on the back of every U.S. cent, a tribute not only to Lincoln's life but to his memory carved in stone. If you look closely, even with the naked eye, you can spot a tiny figure inside the memorial, a miniature statue of Lincoln himself, seated within the colonnade. Few people notice it, yet it is one of the most elegant details in any coin ever struck. The designer, Frank Gasparo, wanted it that way, subtle, powerful, and enduring. The 1991 penny is made from copper-plated zinc, with a composition of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, weighing precisely 2.5 grams. Its diameter measures 19.05 millimeters, and its thickness just 1.52 millimeters. These numbers might sound like cold, mechanical statistics, but in the world of numismatics, the study of coins, every fraction matters. A minor deviation in weight, a slightly different color, or a faint doubling in the design could transform an ordinary coin into a treasure worth millions. And that's exactly where the 1991 1-cent story becomes fascinating. You see, the year 1991 wasn't known for any special issue at first glance. No commemorative release, no new design, no immediate minting error to attract attention. But over time, collectors began noticing peculiarities, small flaws that shouldn't exist, mysterious markings, unusual shine, or even double strikes that made these coins stand out from the billions of others. Some coins appeared to have been struck on bronze planchets left over from the 1982 transition period, when the U.S. Mint had switched from solid bronze to copper-plated zinc. Others showed off-center strikes, broad strikes, or double dies, minting errors that, by accident, created priceless rarities. Imagine a coin that should weigh 2.5 grams but instead tips the scale at 3.1 grams, a clear sign that it was mistakenly struck on a bronze planchet. That's like finding a needle in a mountain of hay. Fewer than a dozen such errors are known to exist from the 1991 series, and when authenticated by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC, their auction prices have reached astronomical levels. One of these rare bronze planchet 1991 cents reportedly sold for over $100,000 years ago. But then came the story that shook the entire collector community, a 1991 penny, perfectly preserved, struck with an extreme minting anomaly, selling for nearly $99 million in a private transaction. Whether that number is exaggerated or a whispered legend among elite collectors, the truth remains: the 1991 cent has achieved mythic status in the world of coinage. Every coin tells a human story. For some, the 1991 penny is a memory of childhood, those times when you could buy a handful of candy with a few coins, when the simple sound of pennies jingling in your pocket meant something. For others, it's a connection to history, a small piece of the vast machine that has kept American currency alive for generations. The Lincoln cent, after all, is the longest continuously minted coin in U.S. history, first struck in 1909 and still going strong today. That means your 1991 penny is part of a lineage over a century old, connecting you directly to millions of people who have held, spent, saved, and collected these coins. Now, let's go deeper, into the mints, the metal, and the mystery. In 1991, the Philadelphia Mint produced an estimated 4.6 billion pennies. These carried no mint mark and were primarily used for circulation across the eastern United States. The Denver Mint produced another 4.5 billion, each marked with the familiar D. Meanwhile, the San Francisco Mint struck a much smaller quantity, mainly proof coins, specially made for collectors, with mirror-like surfaces and sharp, frosted details. These proof pennies, bearing the S Mint mark, were never intended for general circulation. Yet, from time to time, a few found their way into the wild, slipped accidentally into change, or mistakenly released, instantly becoming prized finds for eagle-eyed coin hunters. It's this combination, mass production, subtle differences, and rare mistakes, that makes the 1991 penny so interesting. Among billions of ordinary coins, a handful hides incredible value. But to understand why collectors would pay millions for one, we have to look at the obsession behind coin collecting itself. A rare coin isn't just metal, it's history you can hold. It's the moment when human error, artistry, and chance collided to create something unrepeatable. A double die of verse, a repunched mint mark, or a misaligned die, these are the details that separate the extraordinary from the everyday. Now think of the craftsmanship. Each die used to strike a penny is engraved with microscopic precision. When a die becomes worn or slightly misaligned, it can cause tiny distortions on the coin's surface, doubling of letters, blurred lines, or ghost images. For 1991 pennies, some of the most valuable errors include the double die of verse, where Liberty, or the date appears doubled, the broad strike error, where the coin spreads wider than normal due to a missing collar during minting, and the off-center strike, where part of the design is missing altogether. In each case, the degree of error affects value. The more dramatic and clear the mistake, the more a collector is willing to pay. But perhaps the most mysterious story is of the 1991 detransitional error, where a small batch of Denver minted coins was supposedly struck on leftover bronze planchets from the early 1980s. These planchets, heavier and darker in tone, were never meant to be used again after 1982. And yet, somehow, a few made their way into the 1991 production line. When discovered and authenticated, these coins shocked experts, proving that even in the world's most advanced minting facilities, accidents can slip through unnoticed. Their current estimated worth? Anywhere between $25,000 and millions, depending on grade, condition, and the level of verification. Pressing out billions of coins for a growing economy. But even in that sea of perfection, tiny errors slip through. A hairline crack in a die, a dust particle on a planchet, a misfeed in the press, each of these could create something unique. And in coin collecting, uniqueness means value. Inside the minting halls, the process was mechanical poetry. Sheets of zinc rolled through presses that stamped out perfectly round planchets. A thin copper plating wrapped each blank in a warm reddish glow. Then came the dies, one bearing Lincoln's portrait and the other carrying the Lincoln Memorial. They slammed together at incredible speed, imprinting both sides with the force of several tons per square inch. Thousands of coins per minute, each one identical to the next, or so it seemed. But when even one die shifted by a fraction of a millimeter, when a tiny air bubble formed in the copper layer, when the pressure varied slightly, that's when magic happened. The mint might never have noticed, But a collector somewhere, years later, would doubt that's why the story of the 1991 penny is both a story of industrial precision and human imperfection. It shows that even the most controlled system can produce miracles by accident. When you pick up a 1991 penny and turn it under the light, you're looking at art forged by chance, and that's why collectors revere it. There's also the human side behind the design. Victor David Brenner, who created Lincoln's portrait back in 1909, never imagined that his work would live for more than a century. His initials, VDB, once controversial, are hidden discreetly on the shoulder of Lincoln's bust. Over time, that tiny mark became a signature of authenticity. Every 1991 cent carries his artistic DNA, linking it directly to the first Lincoln pennies struck in the early 20th century. Then there's Frank Gasparo, whose design of the Lincoln Memorial graces the reverse. Gasparo wanted his art to represent unity, the solid, enduring structure that holds a nation's memory together. When he added the faint outline of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial, it wasn't just detail, it was symbolism. The man and the monument coexisting forever, front and back, like two sides of history. Collectors often say that every coin has a soul. The 1991 penny's soul lies in its resilience. Think about how many millions of hands have touched it, how many cash registers it has rattled through, how many pockets it has slept in unnoticed. Yet after 30-plus years, it still holds value far beyond its 1-cent label, because it carries the spirit of American history. From Lincoln's leadership in the Civil War to the evolution of modern minting, that small disc tells a story bigger than itself. Now, let's look closer at the numbers, the cold, statistical backbone of its legend. Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark about 4.6 billion coins. Denver Mint, D, about 4.5 billion coins. San Francisco Mint, S, proofs roughly 3 million coins. That's more than 9 billion pennies in total. And yet, among them, perhaps only a few dozen hold extraordinary value. That's less than one in hundreds of millions. It's like searching for a single drop of red ink in an ocean of clear water. But those who find it? They join a very small club, a club of people who turned a cent into a fortune. So what are the characteristics of the $1 million specimens? First, the transitional bronze planchet error, the holy grail. Instead of being made of zinc with a copper coating, a few 1991 cents were mistakenly struck on leftover bronze blanks from the early 80s. These coins weigh around 3.1 grams instead of 2.5 grams. That small difference, measurable only with a precise digital scale, separates a mundane penny from a piece of treasure. Second, the double die obverse, where the design elements on the front are doubled due to a misalignment during die creation. On some 1991 pennies, you can see faint doubling on the letters, Liberty, or in the date, 1991. Even subtle doubling can command prices in the thousands when certified by PCGS or NGC. Third, the off-center strike, the result of a blank not aligning correctly between the dies. Depending on how much of the design is missing, these coins can be quirky and beautiful, worth anywhere from $50 to several $1,000s. A perfectly centered coin is common, but one with a dramatic 50% off-center image still showing the full date is pure collector gold. Then there are the broad strikes, the die cracks, and the mysterious die clashes, accidents that give each coin a personality. Some 1991 cents show raised lines running across Lincoln's head or through the memorial, caused by cracks in the die. Others display ghostly outlines of the reverse design faintly pressed onto the obverse, as if the coin itself were haunted by its mirror image. But the most breathtaking stories come from those who stumbled upon fortune unknowingly. There was the man from Ohio who found a 1991 D penny in a jar his grandmother kept for decades. At first glance, it looked ordinary, but he noticed the color was darker, the weight slightly heavier. He sent it to be graded, and it came back as a genuine bronze transitional error, valued at nearly $35,000. Another collector discovered a 1991 S-proof penny with an extraordinary mirror finish and microscopic doubling around the date. When it went to auction, bidders fought fiercely, driving the final price into 5 figures. Each of these tales adds another layer to the mythos surrounding this coin. It's important to remember, though, Then not every 1991 penny is rare, and that's what makes finding a valuable one so thrilling. Out of billions, only a few shine. It's a challenge that keeps treasure hunters awake at night, scanning coin rolls under bright lamps, magnifiers in hand, searching for that one perfect anomaly. And then there's the emotional connection. The Lincoln cent is more than money, it's memory. Many Americans remember their first piggy bank filled with these coins, the clinking sound that symbolized savings and hope. The year 1991, for many, was a time of change, the end of the Cold War, new beginnings, a shifting economy. Those little copper coins circulated through gas stations, diners, arcades, and schools, silently witnessing the everyday life of an entire generation. To hold one now is to hold a tangible link to that era. The allure of the $99 million legend adds a layer of mystery that refuses to fade. People debate whether such a sale really happened, whether it was a secret private deal, or an exaggerated story that spiraled through collector forums. But in numismatics, myths often serve a higher purpose. They ignite curiosity. They push people to learn, to search, to appreciate the craftsmanship and randomness that give coins their soul. Whether or not that record-breaking coin exists, the legend has already fulfilled its role. It made the 1991 penny unforgettable. If you ever want to verify whether your coin could be one of those rare variants, start simple. Weigh it. If it's around 3.1 grams, you might have a bronze planchet error. Inspect it under magnification. Look for doubling on Liberty, the date, or In God We Trust. Check alignment. An off-center strike or warped rim could mean a minting anomaly. Look at the color and luster. A richer, darker tone often hints at bronze. A brighter red hue indicates normal copper-plated zinc. Get it authenticated. Only a certified expert or grading service can confirm rarity, but the thrill of possibility is where the adventure begins. For collectors, the 1991 penny also represents a turning point in U.S. coinage. By the early 1990s, the mint had fully transitioned to zinc cores, and the days of heavy bronze coins were long gone. Production methods were improving, errors were fewer, and designs were more consistent. That's why finding a significant 1991 error is even more remarkable. It's an anomaly in an age of precision. Each surviving mistake stands out like a fingerprint left by history. There's poetry in that. A coin meant to be perfect becomes priceless precisely because it isn't. Its flaws make it special. Its imperfections tell a story of chance, of machinery and humanity colliding. That's what makes numismatics more than just collecting. It's storytelling through metal. Some experts argue that the fascination with the 1991 penny will only grow. As more people become aware of the rare varieties, demand increases. Even standard 1991 proof sets have started to climb in value, especially those in pristine condition. Dealers now highlight them as undervalued modern classics, predicting that their prices could skyrocket once mainstream attention catches up. And with social media, YouTube channels, and documentaries spreading these stories, interest is booming like never before. Imagine this: you're scrolling through your old coin jar, maybe out of boredom, maybe curiosity. Your fingers sift through decades of copper and zinc until they land on one. By now, the 1991 1-cent coin feels less like a piece of metal and more like a doorway, a tiny key that opens into history, mystery, and value beyond imagination. The more you explore it, the more it pulls you in. It's not just a penny anymore, it's a symbol of how something so small, so ordinary, can hold a universe of stories within it. People who once ignored these coins now find themselves hunting through jars, scanning every 1991 date under magnifiers, hoping lightning might strike twice. And in the world of coin collecting, sometimes it really does. But to truly understand what makes the 1991 penny special, we have to step back to the deeper timeline that led to its creation. The Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for more than 80 years when the 1991 edition rolled off the presses. Since its introduction in 1909, it had seen changes in metal composition, design adjustments, minting techniques, and even public controversies. Each decade left its fingerprint on the series, and the 1991 coin inherited every one of those legacies. When the first Lincoln cents appeared in 1909, they were made of solid bronze, 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. They were heavy, durable, and rich in color. The design was new, revolutionary even, because it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, President Abraham Lincoln. Before that, only symbolic figures like Liberty appeared on coins. Brenner's design broke tradition, but it struck a chord with the American people. Over time, as costs of materials rose and technology evolved, the mint had to make changes. The biggest shift came in 1982, when the coin transitioned from bronze to a copper-plated zinc composition, a move driven by rising copper prices. The new coins were cheaper to produce but lighter in weight, and that change opened the door for a new era of minting, and a new kind of collector's hunt. By 1991, the mint's processes were fully modernized. Lasers and computers were starting to assist in die creation, but some of the old human craftsmanship still lingered. Every die was still subject to human inspection, and that meant that small errors, tiny, nearly invisible ones, could escape detection. That's why 1991 pennies, despite coming from a modern era, still show fascinating imperfections. They represent a bridge between two worlds, the old art of minting and the dawn of digital precision. When you think about it, it's incredible that something made in such huge quantities could still have individual personality. Over 9 billion 1991 pennies were minted, yet each one tells a slightly different story. Some glint more reddish, others duller. Some carry faint lines from worn dies, others appear razor sharp. And then there are the few, the chosen few, with rare anomalies that defy explanation. Those are the ones collectors dream of finding. Take the 1991 D off-metal strike, for instance. A coin accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a foreign denomination, or a different U.S. coin. These are almost mythic in nature. Imagine a 1991 D penny struck on a dime planchet, thinner, lighter, and silvery in color. Such coins have been authenticated before in other years, and rumors persist that a few 1991 examples exist. If proven true, each one would be worth tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Why? Because they represent a once-in-a-century mistake, something that shouldn't exist, yet does. Then there's the 1991 S-proof coin, a masterpiece of minting. Proof coins aren't made for circulation, they're made for beauty. They start as carefully polished blanks, hand-fed into presses with specially treated dies. Each coin receives multiple strikes to ensure sharp details and a mirror-like surface. When you tilt one under the light, you can literally see your reflection. It's that flawless. For collectors, a 1991 S-proof penny-graded PR70 deep cameo is perfection incarnate. Only a handful of these flawless specimens exist, and they command prices that can climb into thousands. The contrast between the glossy fields and the frosted relief of Lincoln's portrait creates a visual depth that regular coins can never achieve. But what about the ordinary circulation coins, the ones you might actually find in your change? Are they worth anything? Surprisingly, yes, if they're in the right condition. Coins graded MS68 or higher, meaning near perfect mint state with no visible flaws, can sell for hundreds. An MS69, practically flawless, could fetch even more. The reason? Even though billions were made, time and circulation have worn most of them down. Finding one that survived unscathed, with original luster and no scratches, is incredibly rare. Collectors often talk about eye appeal, the way a coin looks at first glance. It's not just about grade, it's about beauty. A 1991 penny with bright red copper tone, no discoloration, and full detail in Lincoln's hair and jacket can mesmerize collectors. It's like holding a time capsule, a perfect piece of 1991 frozen in metal. Now, imagine this. Somewhere in a forgotten drawer, a small plastic coin holder sits untouched for decades. Inside, a 1991 D penny glows faintly red under the light, perfectly centered, flawless in detail. Its owner, unaware of its significance, passes it down to a grandchild. Years later, the grandchild, out of curiosity, sends it for grading. The results come back, MS70, a perfect score, virtually unheard of for a circulation coin. That single grating transforms the coin's fate, instantly multiplying its worth thousands of times over. What was once worth 1 cent now becomes worth more than gold. That's the magic of numismatics, turning time, rarity, and condition into value. Of course, the legend of the $99 million 1991 penny continues to loom over everything. For many, it's become the holy grail of modern coin collecting, the idea that a perfect storm of errors, materials, and condition could produce a single coin worth nearly $100 million. Whether it's real or myth, it doesn't matter anymore. It's the inspiration that drives millions to look closer. Maybe that's the real value, not the coin itself, but the hope it creates. There are also the subtle stories, the ones that don't make headlines but still define the soul of the 1991 cent. Like the blistered planchet coins, those with bubbles forming under the copper plating due to gas trapped during production. Most people see them as defects, but some collectors treasure them as proof of the minting process's raw imperfection. Or the grease-filled die errors, where minting lubricant blocks parts of the design, leaving letters faint or missing. A 1991 penny missing parts of Liberty, or In God We Trust, might look odd, but in the right circles, it's a collectible curiosity. Every imperfection tells you something about the machinery, the metal, or even the day it was struck. Maybe a die was too warm, maybe a planchet too thin. Every scratch, every shade, every variance in tone is like a fingerprint of the minting day. No two coins are truly identical, even if billions were made. It's fascinating how people emotionally connect with these coins. A penny might seem worthless, but when you realize that it's part of a story spanning over a century, it becomes personal. People start keeping them, not for their value, but for what they represent. A reminder of simpler times, of parents and grandparents, of moments when small things meant something. That's what makes the 1991 penny so timeless. It's not just currency, it's nostalgia you can touch. Even professional numismatists, those who've seen it all, still feel a spark when they find an unusual 1991 penny. They'll take out magnifying lenses, tilt the coin under white light, studying the fields and edges for even the smallest anomaly. That slow, deliberate process, observation, measurement, discovery, is almost meditative. It's where patience meets passion. It's where a simple cent turns into a story of craftsmanship and chance. And then comes the question everyone asks: why is it worth so much? How can a penny reach millions in value? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, condition, demand, and the intangible power of fascination. When collectors compete for something that seems impossible to find, the price climbs. It's not just the metal, it's the myth. The same way a rare painting becomes priceless, or a baseball card from decades ago can sell for millions, rarity plus emotion equals value. And few coins stir emotion like the 1991 1 cent. The story of the 1991 USA 1 cent coin grows deeper the more you explore it, like peeling back layers of history, one gleaming surface at a time. What began as a simple everyday coin has become a symbol of hidden value, a reminder that even the most common objects can carry unimaginable worth. By now, every collector, every dreamer, and every curious soul who has ever held a penny has heard the whispers that somewhere out there lies a 1991 cent worth nearly $99 million. But beyond the legend, there's something more profound, a universe of craftsmanship, metal, design, and history fused into this tiny artifact of American life. Imagine yourself standing inside the Denver Mint in 1991. The air hums with machinery. Thousands of blanks, those unmarked circles of copper-plated zinc, rattle through metal chutes, waiting their turn under the mighty dies. Sparks flash, presses thunder, and each impact brings another Lincoln cent to life. The room smells faintly of oil and hot metal. Workers move efficiently, inspecting trays of coins as they cool, each one identical at first glance. But among those billions, destiny chooses a few to become legends, through error, perfection, or sheer luck. The production of the 1991 penny was an industrial marvel. Yet even with advanced technology, the mint could not eliminate nature's most powerful variable, human error. A slightly misaligned die, A speck of grease, a worn collar, or a leftover bronze planchet from years past, all could turn routine into rarity. And it's that fragile balance between precision and imperfection that keeps collectors chasing after the extraordinary. In that way, the 1991 penny isn't just metal, it's a reminder that perfection itself is born from flaw. The coin's composition tells its own tale. By 1991, the penny had long since transitioned from solid bronze to copper-plated zinc. The official breakdown was 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper, a thin coat giving the illusion of old-fashioned copper coins. But that plating was fragile. Underneath, zinc corroded easily. Leave a 1991 penny in moisture long enough, and the copper would bubble or flake, exposing dull gray beneath. It was a small tragedy, the illusion of richness giving way to the truth of fragility. Yet for collectors, this transition marked an era of curiosity. They wondered, could any of the old bronze blanks still have been used by mistake? Could a coin of 1991 have been struck in the wrong metal? When confirmed examples began surfacing, the thrill swept through the numismatic world like fire through dry grass. Each bronze 1991 penny was like a ghost, a relic from a bygone minting era. Heavier at 3.1 grams instead of 2.5, darker in tone, and richer in resonance when dropped on a tabletop. Collectors learned to spot them by ear. A true bronze coin rings with a clear, bell-like sound, while the zinc penny lands with a dull thud. That subtle difference has helped countless treasure hunters over the years separate the ordinary from the miraculous. Imagine someone in a quiet kitchen late at night, testing handfuls of 1991 pennies by the faint chime of metal. It's part science, part ritual, and all passion. The artistry of the coin also deserves reverence. Lincoln's portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner, carries layers of symbolism. His thoughtful gaze, his forward posture, the strength in his expression, all convey leadership and humility. The image was chosen not only for historical respect but also for its emotional weight. Lincoln wasn't just a president, he was the spirit of perseverance. To see his face on a coin that has outlasted recessions, wars, and societal changes gives meaning to every cent still in circulation. That's why the Lincoln penny has endured longer than any other American coin design, because it's not just about money, it's about memory. Flip the coin, and you see Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial, a monument frozen in miniature. Look closer, and you find Lincoln himself, seated within those columns, barely visible yet profoundly symbolic. Few coins in history have ever captured such depth of design. The 1991 cent carries this detail proudly, even in its most circulated form. For those who appreciate art in small spaces, it's a masterpiece you can carry in your palm. Beyond design and composition, though, lies the world of mint marks, tiny letters that change everything. A D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, and no mark at all for Philadelphia. At first glance, these letters might seem insignificant, but in the collector's realm, they're the difference between a dollar and a fortune. Denver coins are the most common, with billions made. Philadelphia's no-mark coins come next. But San Francisco's proof coins, those struck for collectors, exist in far smaller numbers. Among them, the rarest and most flawless carry a premium that defies imagination. Proof coins are the pinnacle of mint craftsmanship. Every blank is hand-polished, every die treated to create sharp contrast between mirror-like fields and frosted reliefs. These coins aren't meant for circulation, they're meant to be admired. If you ever hold a 1991 S-proof penny, you'll notice how it glows, the surface is so smooth that they reflect light like liquid glass. The raised image of Lincoln appears almost three-dimensional, as though sculpted from red gold. Proof coins tell us what perfection looks like, and yet, even among them, a few have hidden quirks that elevate their value even higher. Some 1991 S-proofs show doubling in the motto or date, minute but visible under magnification. Others have cameo contrasts so strong they seem to glow from within. A PR70 deep cameo, the absolute perfect grade, is a marvel of preservation. Collectors will pay thousands for such a coin, not because of its rarity alone, but because it represents flawlessness captured in time. As we move further into the story of the 1991 USA 1-cent coin, the mystery only deepens. For many collectors, this coin is more than metal. It's a puzzle, a silent riddle hidden inside everyday change. But to truly understand how a penny that most people overlook could be worth up to $99 million, you have to go beyond its composition or its design. You have to explore its journey, from the moment it was born at the mint, through decades of circulation, and finally, into the hands of those who recognized its true power. Picture a scene in the early 1990s. America was in transition. The Cold War had just ended, technology was advancing faster than ever, and a new generation was coming of age. Yet amid all the noise of progress, the humble penny remained unchanged, constant, familiar, and quietly enduring. It was the coin everyone touched but no one noticed. It jingled in pockets, rolled under car seats, hid between couch cushions, and clinked inside tip jars. Millions passed through hands every day, unnoticed, uncelebrated, forgotten. And yet, within that vast ocean of copper-colored coins, a few stood apart, not because they looked different, but because they were different. These special 1991 pennies carried secrets. Some were struck with doubled dies, where the metal stamping process created a faint second image. You could see it if you looked closely, the letters, "In God We Trust," appearing slightly shadowed, or the numbers in the date showing a ghostly twin. For most people, that might seem like a mistake, but in the world of numismatics, such imperfections are treasures. A perfect error, if such a thing exists, transforms an ordinary coin into a piece of history worth a fortune. Collectors learn to hunt for these errors like detectives following clues. Under magnifying glasses and LED lamps, they studied each coin's edges, rim, and shine. Some searched through rolls of pennies bought directly from banks, spending hours every night examining hundreds of them. The thrill wasn't just in finding something rare, it was in knowing that the rare could still exist, waiting in plain sight. In those quiet moments, hunched over a table lit by a single lamp, the 1991 penny became something more than a coin. It became a symbol of patience, of the hope that somewhere, hidden among the countless billions, was the one piece that defied the odds. That spirit of discovery is what keeps coin collectors going. They know that history doesn't announce itself, it hides in details. And for the 1991 penny, the details are everything. Among all its varieties, none has fascinated experts more than the elusive off-metal strike. Imagine a penny struck on the wrong blank, say, a dime planchet made of copper nickel instead of zinc and copper. These coins are often slightly smaller, thinner, or lighter, with missing edges or incomplete rims. To the untrained eye, they look damaged. But to a collector, they're miracles of the minting process, accidents frozen in metal. One such 1991 off-metal penny sold privately for tens of thousands of dollars, and whispers persist that a few others, with even rarer compositions, exist somewhere out there, waiting to be found. Then there are the proof errors, coins that were meant to be flawless but weren't. In the San Francisco Mint, where proof coins were crafted under almost surgical precision, a single misalignment or overpolished die could produce a variation unseen anywhere else. The 1991 S-proof penny with deep cameo contrast, its surface glowing like liquid amber, remains one of the most striking coins ever made. But imagine finding one where the die struck slightly off-center, or where Lincoln's portrait appears doubled, or where the mint mark is misplaced. Such coins don't just break the rules, they redefine value itself. The most astonishing stories, though, come from everyday people who stumble upon greatness without even realizing it. A coin discovered in an attic, another found at the bottom of an old coffee can, one more spotted in a handful of change from a grocery store. Each has the potential to rewrite a person's life. One collector once shared how he found a 1991 penny with an unusual weight, 3.11 grams instead of 2.5. He thought it was a scale error until testing revealed the truth, a bronze planchet accidentally used during the transition period. That single penny, once worth a cent, became worth thousands overnight. Now imagine the one that carries an even rarer error, with perfect condition, striking detail, and an authenticated minting anomaly. Theoretically, its private auction value could soar into tens of millions, or even approach that mind-bending $99 million mark in collector lore. But the story of the 1991 penny isn't just about luck or money. It's about history's quiet survivors. Each coin has seen 34 years of life since it was struck, passed from person to person, through changing times, economies, and generations. It might have traveled across states, slipped through vending machines, or been tossed into wishing fountains. Some have been carried by soldiers, teachers, farmers, or children. Each coin carries invisible fingerprints, traces of the people who unknowingly handled a piece of something extraordinary. Even in the minting process itself, the 1991 penny represents a fascinating point in evolution. By this year, the mint had perfected the art of striking zinc coins. The dies were designed to handle mass production, yet they still bore the intricate detail of Brenner's century-old portrait. The level of consistency achieved was stunning, and yet, within that consistency, the smallest deviation could create magic. A faint doubling, a clipped planchet, a dyed break, each turned a mass-produced object into a one-of-a-kind artifact. Coin grading agencies like PCGS and NGC play a vital role in preserving these marvels. They analyze coins under microscopes, measure strike sharpness, surface luster, and color tone, and then assign a grade that determines market value. A 1991 penny graded MS-70, mint state perfection, is incredibly rare. Most coins from that era have tiny contact marks or dulling from circulation. But if a flawless example exists, untouched and brilliant, it could command a staggering sum. Now pair that perfection with a mint error, and you have a coin that transcends its category. That's where the legendary figures come from, coins valued at millions not just for rarity, but for perfection against all odds. And that's where the myth of the $99 million penny comes alive. While no official auction record confirms such a sale, the idea persists in collector folklore that a flawless, error-laden 1991 cent exchanged hands in a private transaction for a figure so high it defied belief. Whether that story is fact or fantasy doesn't really matter anymore. Because legends like this do something even more powerful: they inspire. They make people look closer, pay attention, and dream. Every collector starts somewhere. For some, it's curiosity. For others, it's nostalgia. But eventually, everyone learns the same truth: that coins are pieces of time, physical links to moments long past. When you hold a 1991 penny, you're holding the world as it was 3 decades ago. Gas was cheap, music was changing, and America was entering a new era of confidence. That penny might have sat in a child's piggy bank in 1991, been used to buy candy in 1995, slipped into a collection jar in 2000, and rediscovered in 2025 as a potential treasure. It's a circle of life made of copper and zinc. Even its imperfections tell stories. The small scratches, the worn edges, the fading luster, they're signs of survival. In a way, the 1991 penny mirrors the people who collect it: ordinary, aged by time, yet capable of surprising the world with hidden worth. Maybe that's why this coin touches hearts as much as it excites collectors. Because it reminds us that value isn't always visible, and that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest meaning. As we dive deeper into the collector's market, we find that the 1991 penny occupies a special place. Dealers and investors track it closely, not because it's rare in number, but because it's unpredictable in variety. Some coins from 1991 still look freshly struck, with sharp lines and full copper brilliance. Others show deep red-brown patina, natural oxidation that, when even and glossy, actually increases appeal. Collectors classify them by color: RD for red, RB for red-brown, and BN for brown. A full red, uncirculated 1991 cent is stunning, a fiery tone that looks almost molten under light. But finding one that's both red and error-free, with flawless strike end. The legend of the 1991 USA 1-cent coin does not live in books or archives alone. It breathes through the stories of people who dared to look closer. Every collector, every metal detector enthusiast, every curious soul who ever held a penny under a magnifying glass has added a thread to this tapestry of discovery. And yet, even after decades, the story continues to unfold quietly, unexpectedly, beautifully. There's something almost mythical about how fortunes are discovered in the smallest objects. Somewhere in a small town in America, a man empties his pockets onto the kitchen counter. Among the nickels and dimes, one coin catches his eye, a slightly darker penny, its luster unusual, its edges sharper than the rest. He almost tosses it aside, but something tells him to look closer. He retrieves a magnifying glass and examines the date, 1991. The color is deeper, heavier, the tone not of zinc, but of bronze. Out of curiosity, he weighs it. The scale shows 3.1 grams. His heart skips a beat. What seems like an ordinary penny is, in fact, something extraordinary. He's holding a piece of minting history, a coin that defied composition laws, a bronze survivor in an era of zinc. And in that moment, the world shifts. The ordinary becomes priceless. Stories like this have surfaced time and again, each one fueling the mystery surrounding the 1991 penny. Some are confirmed through certification by professional grading services. Others remain whispered rumors, passed among collectors in hushed tones at coin shows and online forums. The truth is that not all treasures announce themselves. Some prefer to remain hidden, waiting for the right hands to reveal their worth. Auction houses have played a major role in shaping the legend. Take, for instance, the small yet passionate community of private collectors who gather at events like heritage auctions or Stack's Bowers galleries. When a rare penny crosses the block, the room changes. The air grows electric. Collectors lean forward, eyes gleaming, hearts pounding. A single copper coin, smaller than a thumbnail, can draw gasps and bidding wars that echo for minutes. It's not about size or metal value. It's about rarity, history, and the human drive to own a piece of the impossible. Some of the most fascinating auction stories involve unexpected finds. A retired schoolteacher from Oregon once sold her 1991 penny collection after learning one of her coins had a unique double-die feature. She had kept that coin in a jar for over 20 years, unaware that a faint doubling in the date turned it into a treasure. When it was authenticated and graded MS-69 read by PCGS, the bids soared. What she once thought of as pocket change became the centerpiece of her retirement. Another case involved a young boy who found a 1991 penny with a clipped planchet, a small crescent missing from one edge caused when the blank metal was misfed during minting. That coin, though seemingly flawed, fetched thousands at auction because of its precision and rarity. Each auction adds another chapter, another layer of fascination. The grading system itself has become almost sacred in the world of numismatics. Collectors speak in the language of mint states and proofs, of MS-70S and PR-70S, of full red designations and cameo contrasts. Every mark, every tiny imperfection, every shade of color matters. A 1991 penny graded MS-65 might sell for a few dollars. But one that reaches MS-69 or MS-70, gleaming, untouched, a perfect strike with razor-sharp detail, becomes a treasure beyond price. If that same coin bears a recognized mint error, it enters the realm of legends. The demand for perfection reflects something deeper, the human obsession with immortality. Coins like the 1991 penny are little time machines, carrying the essence of an era into the future, unchanged. Collectors know this. They understand that by preserving these coins, they're preserving fragments of civilization itself. Every scratch tells a story, every shine, a piece of craftsmanship. And that's why auctions feel less like sales and more like ceremonies, sacred exchanges where history changes hands. But not all discoveries find their way to the auction floor. Many exist quietly, tucked away in drawers, passed down between generations. Some people hold onto them not for profit, but for sentiment, because the coin reminds them of their parents, their childhood, or the thrill of their first discovery. The 1991 penny has become a symbol of nostalgia as much as of wealth. It represents a simpler time, when people still checked their change and every coin told a story. As technology advanced, the search for rare pennies entered a new era. The internet turned solitary collectors into a global community. Forums and social media groups sprang up, filled with images of coins, magnified details, and endless discussions. Videos surfaced of people finding rare coins in circulation, their voices trembling with excitement. The 1991 penny became one of the most talked about subjects in coin collecting circles. People debated die varieties, minting inconsistencies, and grading results. Some even live streamed their hunts, searching through rolls of coins on camera, hoping lightning would strike, and sometimes it did. One viral story involved a man in Pennsylvania who found a 1991 D penny with an exceptionally strong double die averse. The doubling was so distinct on Liberty that experts initially suspected a counterfeit. But upon examination, it proved genuine. The coin was graded, encapsulated, and later sold for an eye-watering sum in a private deal. The man, a warehouse worker, said he nearly spent it on a cup of coffee before noticing the odd lettering. "It looked strange, so I kept it," he said in an interview. "I had no idea that little coin would change my life." His story reignited global interest in the 1991 series, sending thousands of people to their coin jars in search of similar treasures. What makes this all so fascinating is that no two coins are exactly alike. Even coins struck from the same die can have slight variations due to metal flow, pressure, or temperature during production. These micro differences are what numismatists live for. They study the tiniest details: the curvature of Lincoln's jawline, the spacing of letters, the texture of the fields, looking for signs that their coin might be one in a million. In this way, the 1991 penny is less a collectible and more an adventure, a never-ending quest for perfection and mystery. Behind every coin is an expert, a numismatist whose life is dedicated to understanding metal. Many of them describe their work as equal parts science and art. They use microscopes, spectral analyzers, and digital imaging tools to study coins, yet they still rely on instinct, that gut feeling that tells them when they're looking at something special. Some can identify minting anomalies at a glance, their eyes trained by decades of experience. To them, the 1991 penny is a fascinating case study in modern minting, a blend of mass production and rare human error. It's proof that even the most controlled systems can produce miracles. When you examine the market data, you see a clear pattern. The 1991 penny has steadily gained recognition among serious collectors, especially those focusing on modern errors and varieties. High-grade examples certified by top grading agencies now appear regularly in elite collections. Prices for these coins have climbed steadily over the past decade, mirroring the rise in interest for other late 20th century Lincoln cents. And while most 1991 pennies will never be worth more than face value, the rare ones, the double strikes, bronze planchets, and ultra-high-grade proofs, continue to set new records. But the heart of this story isn't the market, it's the emotion behind it. Every collector who picks up a magnifying glass and inspects a penny is tapping into something ancient. The same curiosity that drove explorers to sail across oceans, that drove inventors to create machines, that drives artists to paint. The 1991 penny may be small, but it carries that eternal spark. It's a reminder that wonder doesn't fade with time, it just hides in plain sight. And as long as there are people willing to look closely, the legend will never die. Somewhere, perhaps at this very moment, a child is discovering coin collecting for the first time. They're holding a penny from 1991, turning it in the light, noticing how Lincoln's face catches the glow. They don't yet know that some of these coins are worth millions. But they feel something, a quiet fascination, a whisper of history calling from the metal. And that feeling is where every great discovery begins. By now, the legend of the 1991 USA 1-cent coin has transcended its physical form. What began as a simple piece of currency, a coin meant to buy a gumball, a newspaper, or a minute's worth of phone time, has evolved into something far greater. It has become a symbol of discovery, a key to hidden history, and a spark that ignites human imagination. But behind every story of a lucky find and every tale of fortune lies the unseen world of expertise, the analysts, the graders, the archivists, and the quiet professionals who spend their lives unlocking the truth behind each coin's mysteries. Step inside a coin grading room at the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC. The air is still, the lighting soft but bright enough to expose every flaw. Coins are handled with white cotton gloves, their surfaces never touched by bare skin. Each expert bends over the small metal circle, examining it under a magnifying lens that reveals a world invisible to the naked eye. Micro scratches, tiny dye polish marks, the faint doubling on a letter, or the barely there rim thickness that could separate an ordinary cent from a priceless masterpiece. It's here, in this world of quiet precision, that the fate of the 1991 penny is decided. The graders work in silence, their experience stretching back decades. They know every curve of Lincoln's face, every swirl of the memorial's design. They can tell in seconds whether a coin has seen circulation or if it's a survivor from the mint vaults, untouched, flawless, eternal. When one of these rare coins appears on their desk, a 1991 penny with perfect luster, flawless strike, and glowing copper tone, even the most seasoned experts pause for a moment. They know they are holding history in its purest form. Some coins tell their stories instantly. The experts see it in the depth of the relief, the texture of the fields, and the precision of the date. Others whisper their secrets slowly, as magnification reveals something unusual: a doubled die, a repunched mint mark, a shifted collar. These small anomalies, invisible to most, are the gold veins in a mountain of copper. They are what collectors dream of, what auction houses fight over, and what legends are built upon. Consider the 1991 D. Lincoln cent with the rumored doubled die obverse. The doubling appears subtle at first glance, a faint echo of the date and lettering. But under high magnification, it's clear, a true minting anomaly, a moment when the die struck twice at a microscopic offset. Each such coin is unique, each a fingerprint of the mint's mechanical heartbeat. When authenticated and graded in mint state, it can command immense value, not merely for rarity but for beauty. The doubling captures a strange poetry: two impressions, two moments in time, united in one coin. But not all treasures are born from error. Some are born from perfection itself. A coin graded MS70, or PR70 in the case of proofs, is the numismatic equivalent of a diamond without flaw. To the human eye, it's beyond perfect: not a single scratch, not a single mark, the surface gleaming like sunlight frozen in metal. Out of billions of 1991 pennies, only a microscopic fraction might ever approach this level of perfection. Those that do are instantly elevated to legendary status. Their owners know that they hold something irreplaceable, a coin that has defied time, contact, and imperfection. Behind these grades and classifications lies an extraordinary science. The experts use high-powered microscopes, spectral imaging, and digital scanning to analyze each surface. They can measure reflectivity, luster flow, and strike pressure to determine authenticity and quality. Every tiny mark is mapped and recorded. It's meticulous, almost obsessive, yet deeply respectful, because they know that coins like the 1991 cent deserve nothing less. The 1991 penny, in its own right, represents a turning point in American minting technology. The copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982 had matured by the early 90s, and the mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, had refined their processes. The dies were stronger, the presses faster, the results more consistent. But even in such precision, unpredictability lingered. A small temperature shift, a slightly worn die, or a misfed planchet could birth something unique. That tension between control and chance is what keeps the 1991 penny endlessly fascinating. For experts, one of the most intriguing aspects of this coin is its variety potential. Die pairs used to strike 1991 cents numbered in the thousands. Over time, those dies wore down, developed cracks, or were polished differently, giving each set a distinctive fingerprint. Collectors catalog these variations in detailed databases, from subtle die chips on Lincoln's shoulder to extra thickness in the motto. Every variation adds character, turning mass production into artistry. The 1991 penny, therefore, is not one coin, but millions of individual stories. Even more captivating are the proof strikes from the San Francisco Mint. These coins, crafted with extraordinary care, are the crown jewels of the 1991 series. Their mirrored fields and frosted designs shimmer with a surreal beauty. To hold one is to hold craftsmanship perfected. Yet among these proofs, certain coins show faint doubling or striking irregularities, anomalies that shouldn't exist but do. When found, they become legends. Proof coins with visible minting errors are rare enough. 1991's proof cents with such anomalies are almost mythical. Experts often debate how many rare 1991 pennies truly exist. Some argue only a handful of bronze planchets ever slipped through. Others claim dozens could still be undiscovered. What's undeniable is that new finds continue to emerge. Each discovery sends ripples through the collector community, reigniting excitement and speculation. A single authenticated coin can shift market values overnight, as word spreads through online auction sites and collector forums. Suddenly, what was once an ordinary year becomes a year of mystery once again. Beyond the numbers, though, lies something more human: the bond between experts and collectors. They share a quiet reverence for these coins, and understanding that each cent is a bridge between past and present. When an expert certifies a rare 1991 penny, they're not just verifying metal, they're preserving a story. They're ensuring that when the coin passes hands, from one generation to the next, its authenticity, beauty, and legacy remain untouched. Private collectors play their own role in shaping this legend. Some of the most valuable 1991 pennies ever known aren't publicly recorded. They exist in private collections, stored in climate-controlled safes, their details known only to a few. Occasionally, whispers surface of a flawless bronze 1991 cent changing hands in a private sale, its value estimated in the tens of millions. These unverified stories may never reach official records, yet they feed the collective imagination. They turn facts into folklore, and folklore into dreams. The modern coin market thrives on these dreams. As prices rise, new collectors enter the field, driven not just by profit but by passion. They attend conventions, bid in online auctions, and study every new discovery. Some specialize in Lincoln cents, dedicating years to understanding every subtlety of the series. For them, the 1991 penny represents a challenge, a riddle to be solved, a mystery to be mastered. Every time one of them finds an unusual coin, the story evolves. The experts often remind newcomers that value in coins is never static. It breathes, shifts, and grows with time, demand, and recognition. A coin that sells for hundreds today might fetch thousands tomorrow. Market trends depend on grading reports, auction results, and public. There comes a point in every great story when fact merges with myth, when the boundaries of what is real and what is imagined begin to blur. For the 1991 USA 1-cent coin, that point arrived quietly, without anyone realizing it. Somewhere between the discoveries of rare mint errors, the record-breaking auctions, and the whispered tales of collectors stumbling upon life-changing fortunes, the humble penny became more than currency. It became a legend, a cultural symbol of hope, luck, and the enduring belief that something small can hold unimaginable power. In coffee shops, flea markets, and suburban garages, stories began to circulate. A man in Ohio who found a 1991 penny in an old jar and sold it for thousands. A teenager in California who spotted an unusual luster on a coin from her grandfather's collection, only to discover it was a bronze planchet worth a fortune. A retired mint worker in Colorado claiming to have once held a misstruck 1991 cent that vanished from the facility decades ago. These tales flowed through online forums and collector groups like wildfire, each retelling adding new details, new mystery, new allure. People began searching their drawers and piggy banks, eyes shining with the possibility of hidden treasure. For many, it wasn't just about money, it was about wonder. The idea that a single coin, overlooked for decades, could transform an ordinary person's life overnight. The 1991 penny had become the modern alchemist's stone, copper-colored magic hiding in plain sight. Museums and numismatic societies started taking note of the cultural momentum. Exhibits began to feature the Lincoln cent not merely as currency, but as an artifact of American identity. In those glass cases, side by side with gold double eagles and silver dollars, the penny stood out precisely because it was small. Visitors leaned in close, reading plaques about its composition: 97.5% zinc, 2.5% copper plating, and marveled that something so simple could carry such weight. Beneath the surface, the penny represented more than metal. It represented the nation's belief in perseverance. To understand this fascination, one must look at what the penny symbolizes in American life. It's the coin you give to a child to toss into a fountain, the token of a wish. It's what you find on the sidewalk and call lucky. It's the last coin that remains in your pocket when everything else is spent. The 1991 penny, appearing in a time when digital payment was still a distant dream, carried those emotions like a vessel of memory. Every scratch, every shine told a story of human hands, of work, of faith and small beginnings. Collectors often say that when you look at a Lincoln cent long enough, you start to see more than a profile, you see history itself. The face of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, isn't merely a portrait. It's a symbol of endurance, of leadership through turmoil, of moral courage. To hold that face in the palm of your hand is to hold an echo of ideals that built a nation. And on the reverse of the 1991 penny, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, a reflection of unity, resilience, and remembrance. Together, these images form a silent dialogue between past and present. As the 1990s unfolded, pennies from that era circulated through millions of transactions, movie tickets, phone booths, parking meters. Yet every now and then, a single coin from 1991 found its way into a collector's hand, and something extraordinary happened. The mundane became miraculous. People began keeping them, preserving them, not for their face value but for their mystery. The 1991 penny had become a vessel of possibility. The myth of the $99 million penny began as a rumor, an exaggerated online post, perhaps, or an embellished auction story. But like all great legends, it gained traction because it captured an emotional truth: that hidden value exists everywhere, even in what we dismiss as worthless. When headlines shouted, "1991 penny worth $99 million," millions clicked, read, and dreamed. Some scoffed, others hoped, but everyone felt that spark of curiosity. What if it were true? What if the penny in your pocket was the one? Television programs picked up the story. Morning shows interviewed experts who explained the science of minting errors and market speculation. News anchors held up glinting coins under studio lights, their copper surfaces glowing on camera. Viewers leaned closer to their screens, eyes wide. For a few minutes, a nation rediscovered wonder through a 1-cent coin. This cultural wave wasn't just about wealth. It was about rediscovering connection. The penny bridged generations. Grandparents and grandchildren sat at kitchen tables, sorting through jars of change, sharing stories about the past. "I remember when these were all copper," one would say. "Keep an eye out for 1991, they say that's the rare one," another would reply. In those moments, history breathed again. The 1991 penny also became a metaphor in art and literature. Poets wrote verses about finding value in the smallest things. Painters created hyper-realistic renderings of Lincoln's profile, magnified until every imperfection became a landscape. Musicians used the coin's imagery in lyrics about luck, fate, and the passage of time. What began as numismatics had turned into cultural mythology. In the world of cinema, the penny appeared in unexpected ways, a symbol in a movie scene, a tiny object carrying immense emotional weight. Screenwriters used it as shorthand for destiny. A character flipping a 1991 penny before making a life-changing decision, another keeping one as a charm for luck. Without speaking a word, the coin conveyed meaning audiences instantly understood. Meanwhile, in the collector world, authenticity became sacred. Grading companies were flooded with submissions as hopeful owners sent in 1991 pennies by the thousands. Packages arrived daily, each accompanied by letters filled with hope. "Please check if this one is the rare kind." Inside those padded envelopes lay not just coins, but dreams. Most returned as ordinary cents, but a few came back with surprises: mint errors, doubled dies, unusual planchet tones. Each of those finds reinforced the legend further. In the global marketplace, words spread beyond America. Collectors in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East began chasing the 1991 penny. Online auctions saw bids from half a world away. It became an international symbol of discovery, proof that fascination knows no borders. For some, Owning one of these coins wasn't just about collecting, it was about possessing a piece of Americana, a token of cultural unity that transcended geography. Even the U.S. Mint, watching the growing fascination, acknowledged the phenomenon in subtle ways. They issued statements clarifying minting details, addressed myths about composition, and highlighted the artistry behind the coin's design. Yet, intentionally or not, every clarification only deepened the intrigue. The more facts emerged, the more people searched for exceptions, anomalies, and hidden stories. For educators and historians, the 1991 penny became a teaching tool. In classrooms, teachers used it to explain economics, metallurgy, and history. Students held it up to light, learning how something so small could reflect an entire era's technology and culture. Science teachers discussed its zinc core, showing how changes in materials mirrored changes in economy. History teachers spoke of Lincoln and his enduring symbolism. Through that single coin, entire lessons unfolded. Meanwhile, auction houses turned the penny's reputation into spectacle. Catalogs gleamed with professional photographs of rare examples, each coin described like a precious gemstone. Brilliant red luster, full strike, flawless rim, double dia verse. The language itself became poetic, transforming technical jargon into reverence. When the gavel struck and bids soared, audiences gasped, not merely at the money involved but at the realization that the world still had room for wonder. Now imagine this. What if that one coin, the one lying quietly at the bottom of your drawer or inside an old jar in your home, is not just a penny but a hidden treasure waiting for your eyes to recognize it? What if that small, copper-colored coin you've walked past 1,000 times is worth more than cars, houses, or even dreams themselves? You see, the most extraordinary part of this story isn't the coin that was found, it's the coin that might still be out there. Maybe in your wallet. Maybe in your kitchen jar. Maybe resting in your hand right now without you realizing it. Think about that for a moment. Every time someone discovered a rare penny, whether from 1943, 1972, 1982, or 1991, they weren't expecting it. They weren't hunting for millions. They were simply curious, paying attention, giving value to something everyone else ignored. And that's what separates a collector from the crowd: curiosity. It's that spark that whispers, "Look closer." So take a moment. Go through your change. Search the old jars in your home, those dusty coffee cans filled with coins from forgotten years. Open your grandfather's drawer, check the collection that's been sitting untouched for decades. Somewhere in that small mountain of metal, there could be a 1991 USA 1-cent coin unlike any other, a coin with a tiny minting flaw, a perfect strike, or an anomaly the world hasn't yet documented. That 1 cent could be worth more than you could ever imagine. Hold the coin up to the light. Let it gleam. Study Lincoln's face. Look closely at the date, at the edges of the letters, at the small D or S mint mark below. Use a magnifying glass, take your time. Look for doubling on the numbers, faint cracks on the rim, or differences in shine between the fields and the relief. Those tiny details are where history hides. And here's the truth: the person who finds the next great 1991 penny will not be the one with the most experience. It will be the one who pays attention. Because this isn't about luck, it's about awareness. The world hides its treasures in plain sight, and this coin is living proof. Collectors who once laughed at the idea of a penny being worth millions now watch carefully. Auction houses are waiting for the next discovery. Numismatic experts are ready to verify it. But that discovery could belong to you. You could be the one whose story inspires the next wave of dreamers. You could be the person the headlines talk about next. Ordinary collector finds rare 1991 penny worth $99 million. And when that happens, when the world suddenly knows your name because of a single penny, you'll realize that value isn't just about money. It's about recognition, about being part of history, about holding something that connects you to a time, a place, and a nation's story. That coin will carry your fingerprint, your discovery, your legacy. So don't let the opportunity slip by. Go and look. Search the old collections, the forgotten jars, the boxes of coins passed down from family. Somewhere out there, another 1991 penny is waiting for the right person to notice it, you might be thinking. What are the chances? But remember, every great story began with someone who asked the same question. The odds never matter when curiosity leads the way. And every collector who's ever found a treasure will tell you the same truth. They almost didn't look that day. So, take that step. Open that drawer. Pick up that coin. You don't need a metal detector or a treasure map. You just need your eyes, your patience, and your imagination. Because that 1 cent could hold a story worth more than gold. Let your curiosity be the compass. Let your hands become the bridge between the past and the future. The 1991 penny isn't just a coin, it's an invitation. A mystery. A whisper from history saying, "Find me." And now, as this story draws to a close, take one final look at that small coin, the 1991 USA 1 cent piece. It's light in weight, only 2.5 grams, barely enough to make a sound when it lands in your palm. Yet within that tiny circle of copper and zinc lies a story larger than empires, older than memory, and stronger than time. Because this isn't just a story about metal. It's a story about discovery, destiny, and the quiet magic hidden in ordinary things. Think about how it began, a simple penny minted over 3 decades ago, designed for nothing more than everyday use. It rolled through countless hands, bought countless things, and lived an invisible life. Yet somehow, somewhere, one of these pennies defied the odds. It became a legend. It reminded the world that even the smallest object can carry unimaginable worth if only someone believes enough to look closer. That's the beauty of the 1991 penny. It stands as a symbol of unseen potential, proof that greatness doesn't always come wrapped in gold or diamonds. Sometimes it comes in copper. Sometimes it's hiding right in your pocket. When you think about the $99 million story, when you hear about collectors searching the globe and experts studying every detail, remember what drives it all: curiosity. Human wonder. That unbreakable connection between our eyes and our imagination. This is why people keep looking, why they still dream, why they still believe in luck and chance and destiny. Maybe that's the real value of the 1991 penny, not the money, but the meaning. It teaches us that value is not always visible, that even the simplest things can hold secrets worth discovering. It tells us that the world is still full of mysteries, waiting for someone to notice. So, the next time you pick up a penny, any penny, don't just see a coin. See a story? See the faces of those who've held it, the history it's witnessed, the possibilities it carries. Let it remind you that everything, no matter how small, has a purpose, because the world's most extraordinary treasures aren't always buried deep underground. Sometimes, they're right in your hand, hiding in plain sight, waiting for your eyes to awaken their meaning. And maybe, just maybe, that one coin, that one 1991 USA 1 cent, is still out there somewhere. Sitting quietly, waiting for you. So keep searching. Keep wondering. Keep believing. Because legends never really end, they just wait for the next person brave enough to continue them. And that person could be you.